Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, the High Guy Jacobs, and today we've got another episode of diving through each hero in Doomsday: Last Survivor. Today we are tackling all of the leader heroes to hit the field. Now this one's going to be a little bit shorter because there are only 9 of them compared to the other 13 or 14, and there is only one super weapon hero among the leaders. And the majority of them are not really mentionable anyways that we don't really talk about, so we'll just take some quick time to run through actually what they do in hopes that maybe in the future IGG will find a way to jazz them up and make them more relevant. Other than that, let's dive into every leader hero currently available in Doomsday: Last Survivors. And as I mentioned before, as we talk about the heroes, this will be the ranking in which I give them. So the first hero that I talk about will be the first leader hero that I think or is the strongest leader hero that I think is there, and then kind of go down the list from there. So if you find your favorite leader hero in the list and it's not where you think it should be, fight me in the comments. All right, folks, let's dive into it. But before we do, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, fill out the notification bell, and comment in the comment section. These are 4 things that absolutely cost you nothing to do, but really, really help out the channel and the algorithm. So if you can do those 4 things, that would be great. I'd greatly appreciate it. Other than that, let's dive in and take a look at these leader heroes. Now, the first one is not Hank. Don't worry. We're not looking at Hank first. Hank is not first one on the list. In fact, the first one is a brand new hero they just released. It's a super weapon hero. It's an amazing hero. Her name is Isabelle Vincens. And I'm telling you, she is amazing. I've seen some of the reports having even a subpar armament set, and you're still going to get fantastic trades. Now, how do we get her? Well, the only way to get her is through the leader roulette, which is actually, I think it's active right now, is it? Yeah, through the leader roulette, at which point you're getting cores for her up at these top spins. So you have to spin 750 times in one event in order for that to, attribute at least some cores to her being transcended. But having her awakened is still pretty good. It's still good for her. Now, obviously, she's better because, she's better with her super weapon because to increase that squad capacity by 20% is huge. And you'll see why that actually plays out, especially when you're talking about fighting in the field. So an additional 20% to your squad capacity is a big deal. And you'll see why that actually pairs with everything else. Okay. And like we mentioned, we're going to take a look at her awakened and then take a look at what the transcending does. Okay. So let's take a look at those skills. And let's take a look at what the transcending does, for her. First and foremost, her first skill is going to be dealing 14,000 damage, which is huge. When not rallying or garrisoned, increase damage received by 3 nearby enemy squads by 10% for 3 seconds. So now she's going to also provide some debuffing in the field to the enemy squads, right? Increasing the damage received by those 3 enemy squads by 10%. Okay. Once you ever transcended, you're going to be dealing 15,000 or 15,300. And then you're going to be increasing that to 5 nearby squads by 15%. So she becomes a real nice dandy out in the field. Okay. Next, you've got Lead the Trend, where you're going to get a squad attack increase of 30% and travel speed increase of 15%. Once you're transcended, you get 35%, 15%, and then basic attacks reducing the target's travel speed by 20% for 5 seconds. Can be triggered up to 1 time every 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds, you're going to hit this person pretty much. You're going to be hitting this person every 10 seconds to reduce their travel speed and chase them down in the field. Okay? And 30% increase to attack is, 35% part of me is nothing to gawk at. 35% is pretty good, especially when it's overall squads, right? You can do this with any type of troops. Next, we've got Intimidating Stance. When not rallying or garrisoned, so when fighting in the field, increase squad HP by 30%. When flanked, reduces skill damage taken by 8%. When you ever transcended, that squad HP goes up to 40%, which is huge. And then a reduction in all damage taken by 8% when flanked, instead of just skill damage in all damage, which is huge. Right? So we're starting to see how she just likes to be in the field. She likes to be fighting in big groups. She likes to bring a lot of troops. She likes to stay out in the field, likes to do a lot of damage. When she's fighting in the field, she's going to increase that skill damage by 20% and gains 30 rage every 10 seconds. Once you ever transcended, you're looking at an increase of 25% skill damage and gaining 50 rage every 10 seconds. right? So the more that she's fighting in the field, the longer that she's fighting in consistent battles, the more that she's raging up that, or just building up that rage. Don't get me wrong, this one here is not as good to me, the 50 rage every 10 seconds. Because it seems to me like you're not going to be in a battle for 10 seconds at a time. You know what I mean? Like you might just be hitting and running in the field, so that one's not necessarily as good to me. But here's the beautiful part. So when you serve her as the leader of the fight and not rallying your garrison. So when she's the leader of the rally, or leader of the march, pardon me, when not rallying your garrison, she gains additional effects based on the type of squad that she's leading. So if she's going to lead only infantry squads, let's say you use her and Boyd, using Grand Opening increases squad damage by 3% for 20 seconds. This effect stacks up to 5 times and remains active when out of combat. So if you lead her with Boyd, increases squad damage by up to 15%, right? Up to 15%, which remains active outside of combat. So you'll be able to basically keep that going while you're hitting and then fighting and hitting and fighting. You don't have to recharge that. That's amazing. If you're leading only rider squads, you lead her with someone like Elena or Janet or something like that. Rider only Grand Opening deals bonus damage 3,500 to 2 other nearby targets. So you're going to add some AoE to her damage. If you're only leading range squad, increase the damage of Grand Opening by 20%. So you put her with Sophie and all of a sudden you're punching in the face for huge amounts. You put her with Ethan, you're still alive, you're punching for huge amounts. There's lots of... Put her with Lynn, put her with, Spectra. She wants to be flanked too, so you can probably put her with, Lynn that wants to be flanked as well. Her and Lynn would be a good one. But now once you have her transcended, the effects change. So all of a sudden now this stacks up to 5 times. Okay, it stacks up to 5 times, so now you're going to get a 25% increase to squad damage. Okay? You're going to be doing 5,000 damage to 2 nearby targets. And you're going to be increasing 30% on that Grand Opening. That's huge. That's huge damage. So she punches really hard, right? She's got one of the hardest hitting damage factors in the game. She's got a ton of benefits. Now, granted, in order to get the real benefit of her Awakened skill or real benefit of her being awakened or transcended, you do need to have a leader's armament set, right? You do need a leader armament set, and I don't have it. I'm still working on it myself, right? However, it does mean that she does amazing, amazing work in the field. She's a great field fighter, and so I think she's one of the best, especially for field stuff that we're dealing with now. Lots of mobility, lots of flexibility, lots of damage, lots of, HP stack, lots of HP, lots of attack, lots of damage reduction, bonus rage, her bonus abilities. So, there's a lot to play with here. Isabelle Vincens, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we're going to talk about someone an honest, I think he's a lot more valuable than people give him credit for, even though people give him credit for a lot. I think he's really good. I still have people asking me if he's better than Bianca, and I honestly think he is. I think Claude does more than Bianca does. But again, here's another situation where Claude kind of shines if you have that leader set. He kind of shines if you're leading with him. Specifically because his rage required is only 950. And it's going to reduce skill damage by 20% for the first 4 seconds. And grants a status to self and nearby enemies or allies. Grants a status. I got to see what that status is. And grants a status to stealth and nearby allies. Increases the target's damage by 25% for 4 seconds if their remaining squad size is greater than 50%. When the target size is less than 50%, heal lightly wounded squads and reduce their damage taken by 15% for 4 seconds. Okay, so this is crazy, but this becomes my thing. Even looking at Claude, I think Claude is really, really good. He's also got the cooperation tree, which is a brand new tree that we've seen coming out of him and Isabella. Isabella has it as well. this cooperation tree. And so if you look at her talents, for example, you're going to be filling out the skills and then going into that cooperation tree because it does do a lot, right? You're going to get, right, increasing the squad there, a bunch of rage, increases counter damage by 5% for squads not rallying your garrison, increases a bunch of rage, right? A bunch of defense, attack, all that kind of stuff. Increases squad attack and HP by up to a maximum of for 5 seconds for each squad nearby when using a rage skill. I mean, there's lots within this cooperation tree that really helps when you're fighting in big fights. And that's going to help Isabella in the long run. But it's the same with Claude, right? Claude kind of does the same thing, and we're going to go through his kit. But again, that rage required at 950 means that you can run him first and have his skills trigger first before your enemies, mostly, depending on who you're fighting, right? But for the most part, since most people have 1,000 rage required skill, this will trigger first and really kind of boost up those effects. But again, let's just read into it. So it's going to reduce the skill damage taken. He's going to trigger a skill which will reduce the skill damage taken by 20% for 4 seconds and grants a status to self and nearby allies. This is going to be an increase of target damage by 25% for 4 seconds if the remaining squad size is greater than 50%. Or if it's less than 50%, it's going to heal 3,000 at a heal factor of 3,000 and reduce their damage taken by 15% for 4 seconds. Affects up to 5 squads, so that's huge. Right? You're either going to increase the damage of yourself in 4 squads, or you're going to heal yourself in 4 squads. Okay, which is pretty crazy. Next, you've got Lingering Miasma. After using a rage skill, reduces HP and travel speed of up to 5 enemies by 35 and 40% respectively for 3 seconds. A reduction of HP at 35% is huge. A reduction of travel speed at 40% is great in the field if you fight in the field to keep them there. Also reduces their rage recovery speed by 20% during this time. So now they're going to be putting skills out slower. Right, so you can see why Claude is going to be kind of a beast for what he does. He's a magnificent buffer and debuffer. You got Spore Parasitism, increasing squad HP by 20%, travel speed by 20%, and squad capacity by 10%. For those who don't know, there's 3 things. You've got squad capacity, squad load, and what's the other one? Squad capacity, squad load, and rally capacity. Okay, these are 3 different things. Squad capacity means that the amount of troops that you can take in your squad. Squad load is the amount of resources your squad can hold. And rally capacity is the amount of troops that can go in your rally, the rally cap. So squad capacity is your squad cap. Squad load is resources. And rally capacity is the cap at how many rally troops you can have. So an increase in 10% extra squads means that you're bringing 10% more troops, right? Pair him with Isabella, for example, and now you're bringing 30% more troops without using any buffs, okay? Now we've got Photosynthetic Assimilation. Reduces squad counter damage received by 20%. When taking skill damage, gains a shield at 3,000, which can be triggered only once every 6 seconds. So we've got an overall reduction in counter damage. We've got an overall increase in squad HP and travel speed and squad capacity. We've got an overall increase or decrease, in debuff for your enemies. And you've got an amazing reduction in damage here as well as a buff and a debuff for a buff or it's a double buff. Either way you look at it for you and your friends. And then once you give them awakened, you're going to get this bonus at the end here. This is where you get this rage recovery speed. Once you get him awakened, he reduces that rage recovery. That becomes a huge benefit to his decay and wither. Okay? So this is Claude. This is why I think he's probably the second best leader hero that we have. He's fantastic in the field. He does amazing work. Tons of buffing, tons of debuffing. Really, really useful. Definitely one you should add to your list. And this is why I think he's a little bit better than Bianca. Now, I'm not saying Bianca is bad. I just think that Bianca, at the end of the day, doesn't do as much as Isabella or Claude does. Okay? First and foremost, she's going to do a rage required at 1,000. She's going to increase the attack and defense by 38% respectively for you and nearby allies, affecting up to 3 squads, lasting 4 seconds, also instantly restoring rage, 60 rage to them. So we're going to get an attack and a defense, which isn't bad, and a rage restoration out of 3 squads when she does her rage skill. Next, we've got an increase of defense by 24%, which is good, and travel speed by 20%. Again, pretty great, pretty standard. Next, we've got a 20% squad increase attack, as well as increasing basic attack damage by 20% if the remaining squad size is less than 50%. Lastly, we've got every 10 seconds grants a shield at a factor of 2,800 to you and nearby allies. Last 3 seconds affects up to 3 squads. And then lastly, once she's awakened, you're going to turn that into 42% attack and defense, and then affecting up to 5 squads. So she's really good. Again, don't get me wrong, just Claude does what she does just much better. So Bianca's great, Claude's better. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about Victor. Victor, where are you, buddy? Victor Blackwood is a very special place, not only in my heart, but in his role. There's really only one thing he does, and that's garrisoning your shelter. But the reason why I put him above the others is just because he does garrisoning on your shelter much better than what, let's say, Master Jin does on rallies. Especially nowadays when most of what we're talking about is massive damage and things like that. So let's talk about Victor. Again, you'll notice garrison tree. He's a garrison hero, so you'll put him on your wall like I did here. I've got Boyd Victor on my wall. And the main reason for that is because of his skills, right? First and foremost, we're dealing 13,750, which is a ton. And if your garrisoning increases this skill's damage by 20%. So if you're garrisoning, it's like 16,000 or something. Okay? Which is a ton of damage up front, which is great. Next, you got Evolutionary Leader, where you're going to get a bonus attack and squad HP at 17%. A little bit low. Remember, he is a little bit old. But not bad to have both coming out here. Next, we've got a reduction in skill damage by 17%. When squad contains 2 or more types of troops, increase squad or attack by an additional 20%. So this is why I like to put him on my wall, and I don't like to put him anywhere else. I wouldn't garrison with him in the field, like on a tower, because the chances are you're not going to have mixed troops in that tower, and he really only shines when you have those mixed troops, right? Because then we're talking about 37% attack instead of just 17%. When garrisoning increases squad HP by an additional 20%, so now we're talking about 37% HP. And then basic attacks having a 20% chance to deal an additional 1,920 damage to the target. So now we're punching even harder. And then once he's awakened, that's where he's going to start to get a big boost to his damage. He goes from 1,250 to 1,375, and then from 15% to 20%. So he does really good on the wall, but that's really kind of all it is, right? Most of his stuff is when he's garrisoning and when he's got 2 or more troop types, right? When garrisoning increases the squad HP by an additional, whatever it is. This one, I mean, so technically you can run him in the field, but like, you're not going to be doing as good with him. He doesn't really have as much flexibility. You really kind of want to run him in garrison, and he really only does this one thing, which is kind of garrisoning your wall, which is where I have him now. Make sense? But that's Victor Blackwood, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to take us almost halfway through, and we are burning through the list today. That is going to bring up who I think is the best free-to-play buffer-debuffer in the game, Mr. Lee Sung-won. I probably butchered that name, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it anyways. Lee Sung-won is a free hero. He's a leader hero. He is a support hero, so you're not going to lead with him. But he does some great buffing and debuffing, especially for free-to-play players, because he's been free forever. I'm not sure if he is still now, but he's been free forever, so a lot of people will have him. And he does really good. He's got AoE damage. He's got AoE buffing and debuffing. He's kind of like the first version of that that everyone could kind of get, Lee Sung-won. First and foremost, he is going to be dealing damage to up to 5 target squads. Granted, we're only dealing 3,800 to each one, but if you're dealing up to 500 or 5 squads, you're looking at, what is that, 19,000 damage. 15 plus another 4, was that 19,000 damage? So it's pretty good when you're talking about big groups. And in the process, he's reducing targets' attack, defense, and HP by 30%. So he punches in the face to 5 different targets and then reduces their attack, defense, and HP. He increases squad's damage dealt to zombies, which is irrelevant. Heals some lightly wounded zombies after heals some lightly wounded units after killing zombies. Again, this one's irrelevant. I do use him to hunt zombies and help in that sense. So, you know, if you're going to do his hero talents, I look at doing the entire zombie hunting tree, because he's one of my zombie hunters. And again, I don't lead with him in the field fighting. He's only going to co-lead, so it doesn't matter. When leading 2 or more troop types, increase squad attack by 24%. This is why I'll always send, if I'm sending him in the field, I'll always send 1 additional troop of other types. Or send 100 of another troop type. So you'll get that bonus attack. And then reduces counter damage taken by 14% and increases rally capacity by 12%. So I'm not sure why you'd actually put him on rally, unless you're running like a tank. But even then, like, there's not really much. You're not really tanking much out of him, so I wouldn't really see him doing much for rally capacity. But reducing counter damage taken by 14% is still pretty big. And then once you have him fully transcended, you're going to get 4,600 damage out of it, and a reduction of 35% on the attack, defense, and HP. So he's still pretty good in the sense that he helps out in the field, especially if you're brawling with a bunch. If you have multiple, so you send a couple troops of a different type to get a bonus attack, and reducing that counter damage taken makes him a little bit tankier. So he's got a little bit of play out there. Granted, not nearly as good, but as you'll see, the rest of the leader heroes kind of fall off pretty quickly after Lee. Still pretty good. Still use him in AOD if you have to. Like a Marco Lee, for example, if you don't have Claude, Marco Lee, or even a Raigoro Lee, Lee and you want another good debuffing line, it would be Lee and what's his face? This guy, Lee and Alexander. He's got a really good debuff here as well, or buff, pardon me. So they work kind of well, buffing and debuffing and things like that. There's lots of options, but that's where I would look at Lee Song 1. Next, we're going to look at Master Jin. Now, Master Jin is only available in the VIP store, in the VIP levels. I think you have to get to VIP 13 to fully awaken him. And I think you got to spend like $300 and something to fully awaken him. And he's definitely not worth it now. Pardon me. He's definitely not worth it now. He used to be amazing. He used to be seen everywhere when the game was still running a lot of Peter and Hank, which we'll talk about later. And he still has some play. Like, we'll go through his skills and you'll see like he still does pretty well, but you'll just see that he has no damage. And in a world where everything is damage, you kind of need it. He also has a support tree and the siege tree. So you'll see that his skills are set more for rallies than they are for anything else. And then right now, there's just no real play for him in a rally position. Right? Because first and foremost, all we're getting is a 45% increase in attack and defense. And gains an additional 20 rage for each basic attack. So you're going to gain an extra 100 rage. Right? An extra 100 rage for 5 seconds. Okay, so you get 100 rage and a boost of 45% attack and defense. Which isn't bad, but again, we're thinking about this. There's no damage on that, right? So you're only going to boost this to your one hero who's doing damage. Which isn't bad, but again, it's not ideal. And you'd have to lead with him to get the true benefits because you'd want this to go off before the other skill goes off. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing that damage the whole time. You've got Harmony first. Reduces squad damage taken by 7.5%. Also has a 10% chance of healing damage at a factor of 1,500. This effect can be triggered only once in 6 seconds. So reduces squads damage taken by 2.5%. Also has a 10% chance of healing when damage is taken. So anytime damage is taken, there's a 10% chance to heal at a factor of 1,500. Right? So anytime you take basic, counter, skill, things like that. Next, you've got Earthly Desire. Increases rally capacity by 15%. Also increases damage dealt by squads by 11% during sieges. So you get an 11% siege damage, 50% rally capacity. Really increases the benefits to being in a siege. Increases the squad attack and defense by 18%. So, I mean, if you pair it all together, we are getting, what is that, 63% attack and defense, which is great. But that's it. There's no HP. There's no real kind of damage reduction besides this, 7.5% damage reduction and a small heal factor. And then once you have him transcended, yes, it jumps even more. And then you end up getting a little bit more rage and a little bit more attack and defense. So it's good. But again, it's just not... It doesn't pair with the meta rallies and the meta marches and things like that. And most of his benefits come from being, rally capacity during sieges, right? Yes, he can work in other places, but like you really do kind of want him, in those rally positions supporting or leading. It's kind of hard. He just kind of runs out. He runs out of place. But that's where I'd put Master Jin. Next, we're going to talk about my boy Peter. Where'd you go, Peter? Oh, you're going to be down at the bottom because I swapped you out. I remember now. Peter Karelin. How you doing, Pete? Petey boy? Petey boy? First and foremost, for the next 3 seconds, every basic attack has an 80% chance to deal additional damage at a factor of 4,500. So this already pisses me off. You only have an 80% chance to deal his skill damage. So, I mean, if you're really unlucky, you could trigger his skill and deal no damage. Right? And if you think about it, you're only getting, 13,500 damage if he hits all three. And you don't have an 80% chance to hit all three. Right? So just putting that out there. It's not bad, but it's not great. Next, we've got increasing squad capacity by 12% and rally capacity by 12%. So this means that your squad capacity, yes, you can send more troops into your squad. This will also allow you to send more troops into the rally itself. Not you personally, but you'll have a higher capacity on your rally. And this one means you'll have a higher capacity on your squad, which isn't bad. But again, very, very small numbers. We're talking 12%, which isn't huge. If you have 2 or more types of troops in your squad, increase squad attack by 24%. So this is another Peter Lee. This is when you would see Peter Lee way back in the day. You're getting that extra 24%. And then increasing squad defense by 5% during siege. 15% during siege. Also increases damage dealt to the lookout towers by 30%. Who cares what lookout towers is relevant? Next, you got wartime. Once you have them awakened, it turns it to 100%. But you have to have him awakened to get that 100% guarantee, which to me is totally bullshit. Which is why Peter doesn't get played anymore. He's kind of totally useless. He's got the attack tree. He's got the siege tree. It's just nothing that works for him. Next, we're going to talk about Hank. Hanky boy. We've only got a couple left, folks. Hank Jannowitz. Again, back in the day, he was great. But now we've kind of fallen off. Deals direct damage to the direct damage at 4,500 to the target and causes burn damage for the next 5 seconds at a factor of only 900. So if you think about this, and deals bonus damage to garrison squads at a factor of 3,500. So if you think about it, let's do some quick math. 5 times 9 is only 4,500. So we're only dealing direct damage at 9,000. If it's a garrison squad, we're going to go up to 12,500 if it's a garrison squad. So it's low damage on a garrison squad. Increases damage dealt to lookout towers by 30% during siege, because that doesn't matter. And then increase the amount of resources rated by 10%. Great, but no damage doesn't matter. Squad's basic attacks have a 10% chance to deal an additional 3,200 damage during siege only. Increases squad capacity by 12% and rally capacity by 12%. So this is why a Peter Hank would go very well together, used to be. Right, for sieges. And then once you have him awaken, that 10% chance to reduce target's damage by 8% and defense by 20% for 3 seconds. So he's got another little bonus basic debuff. But again, just nothing that works with him. Peter and Hank, right? And other than that, he's got no play. He's got the skills tree, but he's got siege, and he's got crap skills, so he's kind of just poo-poo buckets. And then we have our last but not least, Jaden. Now, Jaden's totally free. You can awaken him for free. He's been debuffed. He's got the attack tree, the zombie hunter tree, so I use him for hunting zombies. And then once you see why, once you see his skills, you'll see why he's last on the list. He's only dealing 9,600 damage if he leads. If he doesn't lead, it's only 4,800 damage. At the same time, he's going to reduce the defense of the attack squad by 30%. Okay, that's not bad. But again, we're only punching for 9,600 damage, so it's not really great. Increases damage dealt to zombies. We don't care about zombie stuff. When attacking a zombie, there's a 10% chance to lightly heal squads. Again, we don't care about zombie stuff. When using a basic attack, there's a 20% chance to reduce skill damage taken by 25% for 3 seconds. That's pretty good. Nice little tank ability there, and skill damage is pretty beneficial, so that's huge. But again, it's still Jaden. He's still doing no damage. That's no good. And we're only getting 12% squad attack and defense, which is almost nothing. Right? And then all we're doing is pumping his damage in the squad defense a little bit from 8,000 to 96. But again, 9,600 is still pretty buckets. But that's going to wrap it up for those 9 leader heroes, folks. And truth is, that's all it is for them. And you can pair them however you want. They're not really going to be running in garrisons or rallies. They're mostly going to be running in the field. Does that mean you have to run them? No. I've seen Stella Claude, for example, work on rallies. I've seen, let's see, obviously Victor's going to work on garrisons. I've seen him work on tower garrisons before, depending on your bracket, right? So there's other ways that you can place them. But mostly they're going to be used for field fighting. Mostly they're going to be used for buffing and debuffing in the fields in big groups. And mostly they're going to be used by whales. Let's be totally honest, okay? But other than that, folks, I hope you guys like what we've been doing here. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you haven't yet, check out, I just dropped episode 1 of Dispatch. It's a viral game, a viral superhero game that just dropped. I just dropped episode 1. We're going to be going through them all together. If you haven't already, check it out. Watch it, comment, like, subscribe, do all the things you need to. Let's get that growing too. I'm going to have some fun doing some other content on this channel just to kind of bring it all around. Because as we've seen Doomsday go through some ups and downs, I want to make sure that we can keep the community going all the way through it. Other than that, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and fill out the notification bell for this channel to help it out with all the free ways that you can. And if you'd like to help financially, click the join button, become a member, help it out with a little bit of your wallet. Other than that, folks, love, peace, chicken grease, and until next time, stay lifted. 3, 2, 1, let's go.